We will be joined shortly by the Senator Dr. Dana Morris Dixon. She is the Information Minister, and she will be joining us to give us a quick update as to the government's plans and expectations going forward. We know it's going to be a bit of a bother for many of us, but let us just be on the hopeful side. Let's put the preparation in place. What you're seeing on screen is footage of some of the impact of Beryl so far coming through the Eastern Caribbean. I know that Grenada was strongly hit. I heard that Carriacou, which is one of the sister islands, was most impacted. And so now we are being joined by Jamaica's very own Information Minister, Senator Dr. Dana Morris Dixon. Welcome, Senator.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to all of your viewers.
Thank you so much. Minister, what is the latest that the government can share with the people of Jamaica pertaining to what's been happening?
All right. Well, we have been monitoring, so it's on multiple fronts, right? We've been monitoring the track of this storm. You know, yesterday we were very hopeful that it would be very south of Jamaica and that the eye wouldn't make landfall.
Yes.
But the projections today have it potentially, most likely, making landfall in the southeast part of Jamaica. As you know, these are all projections, and so it can change. We've seen hurricanes that Jamaicans have been able to pray away, apparently. And so we don't know. You know, they're very unpredictable. And so we just have to use the best information we have. What we are saying to the public, though, is that Hurricane Beryl is very dangerous. She may be south of us, or she may make landfall. So what we have to do is to prepare for the worst. And so that is the posture of the government, is preparing for the worst. And so all of our disaster risk mechanisms have been put into place. All of our ministries have activated all of their disaster plans, and we are doing our best to prepare the country for Beryl. Our primary focus is on getting especially supplies to those who are shut in or elderly or those with disabilities, especially if they're in areas that are prone to flooding or that may be cut off. Trying to get supplies to them. The Ministry of Labor and Social Security is working very hard today to get care packages together and get them out. And that vulnerable group is very much a concern for the government. And so that's a focus for us. We're also focused on the shelters and getting the shelters ready. There is a list of about 900 shelters. It's a lot of shelters across the island. We ask all Jamaicans to know where their nearest shelter is, and so that they can evacuate. This is not a storm for us to take lightly. Let us get through this alive. And if someone is asked to evacuate, we ask them, we know that it's hard to pick up your things and have to go to a shelter. But we say to you, your life is important. And so we don't want to take any chances with this hurricane.
Because I was right about there to say, you know, with the trepidation that some Jamaicans experience going to a shelter, how do you really convince them that it's critical to go out? You just mentioned that. So what's the evacuation strategy for persons in low-lying, flood-prone and landslide areas?
All right. So as I said, the hurricane path is a little bit tricky to determine. But during the course of today, we've been working with the Met Office. So we're using the scientists and the experts in the government system. So we're using them to tell us where they feel landfall will take place, where we think the most damage will be done, so that we can do the order in order to have those areas evacuated. And so, as you would have heard yesterday, the cabinet did approve putting all of our disaster preparedness and response under the DRMA, the Disaster Risk Management Act. And what we are doing through the course of today is listening to the experts and drafting the orders in relation to that. Those, when they're ready later in the evening, will be communicated to all of Jamaica. And that's what we will use, and we'll have a better idea of where the storm is going and where we think we will have the highest potential for flooding or even the high wind incidents. And so we're being very scientific about it. And so later today we will be coming out with the orders in terms of any evacuations that may be necessary. And again, I note this is a very fluid situation. Beryl could decide it doesn't want to come anywhere near Jamaica, and we've prayed and it moves away, but it could very well come. And so let us be mindful of our plans or preparedness for this hurricane and put everything in place. And that's what we're doing as government.
We also are interested in finding out how the government is liaising with members of parliament to mobilize those resources at the local level.
Sure. And so this morning, the Prime Minister had a meeting with all members of Parliament. It was a very good meeting. It was attended by most of the members of Parliament. The opposition leader was also at that meeting with the MPs. The Prime Minister in that meeting reiterated that, you know, the MPs are often a first call for residents, and we know the councillors too. They call their representatives when they are in danger and when they need support. And so we went through in that briefing the important role that they played. They were also given a brief from the key ministers that have a role to play in disaster response. Many of the ministers gave out their personal numbers again so that anyone who needed them could reach out to them. The Prime Minister also pledged additional support to every single MP that will afford them the ability to be able to get care packages and to take care of the persons in their constituency, because that's a priority for us, the fact that we take care of the people in each constituency. So that we did that today, and so that's a very good thing. I know the MPs welcomed the additional support that they will be getting so that they too can be prepared to support their constituents.
Indeed. You mentioned, Minister, that there was going to be heavy focus on the southeastern section of the island because that's where the projection is that if it does come close, it might be worst affected. What specifically are we looking forward to if we're heading into that section of the country at this time?
Well, I mean, I don't really speak for the scientists usually,
definitely
right?
not on that
and I know,
aspect of it.
But what we're
Preparation-wise.
Right. So there's an emphasis there. And so even on the call with the MPs, there are certain areas where we know there are some concerns. Some of the MPs in Spanish Town, for example, raised some issues, and the NWA was on the briefing with the MPs. And the NWA is currently on the road trying to do remedial work, cleaning gullies, doing a lot of work across the entire country in order to prepare us for Beryl. And so what we do know where some of the flood prone areas are. And so in terms of the preparation work that's being done across government, there is particular emphasis on those areas. But we also know that when you have really heavy rainfall, no matter how clean the gully is, if you get a lot of rainfall in a short period of time, there's a high probability of flooding. So what we're doing is trying to clear as much as we can so that at least we'll lessen any kind of flooding that will come.
Right. So I know that we spoke about communications yesterday at that media briefing, but I'm again asking on behalf of those who can't get to ask you themselves, how sharp would you say is the Jamaican government's communication apparatus at this time?
Well, I mean, you can look at communication in two ways. I mean, there is the information side where we're getting information out to everyone, and that is primarily being done through the GIS. We also urge Jamaicans to watch CVM, get to legitimate sources. You are very responsible. You only put out information that you fact checked and that is real. And so we urge Jamaicans to listen to the traditional media, your CVM, which has been there for a long time with very good journalists.
Indeed.
They will be giving you good information. So it's important. Don't just go on any site or anything and listen to what is being told there. Listen to the legitimate media. So there's that side. And so we say go to GIS. GIS will tell you what's happening. In terms of communication internally, we have a new brand communication system. I'm hoping I'll get one of the radios so that I can keep in touch with all of the teams so that when you ask me questions, I can answer them. that we have where our fire service, the police, the ODPEM, all of that apparatus will be able to communicate even if the telecom providers they go down. And so a lot of work has been done in our disaster preparedness mechanism, and it's something that we as Jamaicans should be proud of. And we will be testing a lot of these systems during Beryl. I'm sure we learn a lot of lessons, and we can only improve over time. But this has been the best shape we've ever been in, really, to respond to a hurricane of this nature.
Well, if you could rate us on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, how ready would you say we are?
Oh my gosh, you are putting me on the spot. But I
have
think,
to.
you know, I'm a member of the Andrew Holness administration, and we mark ourselves very hard. And so I think we're at probably, we'd say, a 7. We always feel that we have room for improvement. And I can say to you, a lot of good public servants are out there on the road, not going home and battening down. They are out there helping Jamaicans, and they'll be out there during the storm, and we thank them for that. And they have put in a lot of work to make us ready. Will we be perfect? I don't think so, but we are as ready as we can be with the resources that we do have.
All right, someone asked me to ask you if there is a plan for emergency welfare support for vulnerable Jamaicans.
Well, you know, vulnerable Jamaicans are always our priority, whether it's through PATH or any of our other programs. The Ministry of Labour and Social Security is actually currently getting care packages to them. After the hurricane, the conversations have already started about what the relief effort would be. And usually that would be definitely a part of any kind of response from the government. So we would expect that to happen, especially if we get a direct hit.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Information Minister Dr. Dana Morris Dixon. She's also a government senator. Thanks for that bit of information for the Jamaican populace watching at home and elsewhere. Well, that brings us to the end of this interview segment and for the end of the CVM News Hurricane Beryl Special Edition. I'm Nika Lewis. Continue watching reputable CVM News.